You're listening to the Being Stellar podcast, the podcast for modern leaders and entrepreneurs who are tired of hustle culture and ready to invite more ease and more prosperity into their lives. I'm your host, Deborah Stellingwerff, master teacher and coach, and I am obsessed with helping you avoid burnout while you create a sustainable lifestyle full of possibility and profit on your terms. On the show, you'll hear inspiring stories of possibility, and you'll get empowering strategies and insights from me to support you in creating your stellar life. Well, hello and welcome back to the Being Stellar Show. Got a really special guest here for you today, somebody that I'm really excited to chat with because we are going to talk about one of my favorite things to talk about, which is sales leadership language. All right, the language of sales leadership. You know, if you've been on the show at all or listened to any of my trainings recently, that I'm really passionate about the language of sales leadership. And we've got in the studio today my friend Dan Penner, who has a really fascinating story about his journey in sales. And he's such a great example of someone who has showed up in his business and in his sales journey as an elite learner, and I really wanted him to tell you his story. And I just want to say a little disclaimer. Dan, thank you for being here. So great to have you. And when I asked Dan to be on the show, he had this look of horror come across his face because this is a man who's very humble and, the spotlight, he's not one to like, yeah, give me the microphone like me. I'm like, anybody offers me a microphone, I'm like, yes, give me the microphone. And so Dan, I really appreciate you being here because I know that this is not in your comfort zone, but I also know that you're somebody who's willing to step out of your comfort zone. So welcome to the Being Stellar Show.
Awesome. Thanks for having me. Like I mentioned to you, this is my first podcast ever. And I'm not much to be in the spotlight, really more comfortable in groups of 2 to 4 when I'm talking, about marketing or products or anything like that. But again, I've always lived by the motto that you do have to go outside your comfort zone if you want to be successful. So what a better way to do it than on your podcast.
Awesome. Thanks. So everyone, Dan is a mortgage broker. He is with VERICO Pipeline Mortgages, and he's also an insurance is a broker, right? Insurance broker.
Correct.
With Manulife. And so Dan is an exception because I don't meet a lot of people who do both of those things, mortgages and insurance. And it's something, a value proposition that you add for your clients and the people that you work with. And we can talk more about that later. But what I'm really excited about sharing with my audience, who are mostly entrepreneurs in service-based sales, so similar to your world and your journey, and they're at various stages of their journey. I'd love for you to tell us your story about how you got into sales. Like as soon as Dan told me this story, I'm like, I wish we'd had the recording going that day. Yeah. So we could have captured it because it's such a great and powerful story about being an elite learner and really mastering your craft. So take us back to the beginning of your sales journey where you were told to go away and get some skills.
I'll try and square it down to as short a story as possible. But basically, grew up in the Fraser Valley, out in backwoods of Mission. Graduated from Abbey Senior in 1993. I never even thought about getting into finance or sales growing up. All I ever wanted to be was a fireman for it. And, through high school, I was looking forward to that and, wanting to become a volunteer fireman and getting my career going with that. I've always been an adrenaline junkie. So, as soon as I turned 16, I bought the, crotch rocket Kawasaki Ninja motorbike. So, I've been riding, dirt bikes and motorbikes all my life. And, in high school, there were, I believe, 7 of us that all had racing bikes. And unfortunately, 2 weeks after high school graduation, I was in an absolutely horrific motorbike accident. I shouldn't even be here for it. Long story short, bones crushed, tibia and fibula flew out of my leg, lungs collapsed, lost over half the blood in my body, right hand collapsed, bone grafts, skin grafts, 7 operations, over 2 months in the hospital. and 2 years before I could actually even walk again. So had to say goodbye to that fireman career because I can only be on my feet a few hours out of the day.
What I like about that part of your story, and what I appreciate about this part of your story, Dan, is that it shows your grit and your tenacity. Because I've met you, I've walked with you. You don't walk like somebody who's been in such a devastating accident. So it tells me that you have made those efforts to take care of yourself and restore yourself, because you present as somebody who's pretty fit. You've got muscles, and you take care of yourself and do what needs to be done.
Like when I was in the hospital, I never really got down on myself. It was just a matter of when am I getting out, when am I getting better, and a lot of it is how your mental state is.
Absolutely.
I mean,
we always have a choice to how we're going to respond.
Have a choice. When you wake up, you have a choice to be grateful or to be ungrateful, and I choose to be grateful. And what it did is really make me appreciate all the things in life that that a lot of people take for granted. So a couple of years goes by. In high school I just worked at the grocery store, so I had no sales experience or anything like that. And I was looking for a career, and I was thinking, maybe I'll get into banking, go work for a bank. And my uncle, who was retired at the time from a credit union out in Alberta, he said, don't ever go work for the bank. The days of the bank managers being rock stars and getting the high salaries and 8 weeks vacation, because that's over. He said, go work for a finance company, doing the high risk loans and mortgages, and you'll get the best training, and you can start from there.
Okay, so one of the things that I love about this part is that this is a kid who likes the crotch rocket at 16, is a risk taker, likes adrenaline sports, and he's like, I think I'll go work at a bank, right? And it's like, as a coach, I'm like, there's a misalignment there right away. So your uncle was really smart to steer you in the direction of something's a little riskier, something a little edgier for you, because it suits your personality more. So I wanted just to highlight that for the listeners, because this is so key, right? When we choose where we're going.
Yeah, it was my uncle who was the catalyst to get me into the finance work. So I was in Abbotsford at the time, and just looked in the paper back then. You didn't have internet or anything, in those days. And there's a company called TransCanada Credit, and they're along lines with Avco and Beneficial at the times. And so I believe I was a little over 20 years old. Just walked into the door, asked for the branch manager, and just asked, are you hiring any, loans and mortgage officers? And first thing he says is, do you have any sales experience? And I said, well, I stock shelves at the grocery store. That's about it. And he said, go get at least 1 year worth of sales experience. He didn't care where I got it from, and come back and we'll talk. So again, went home, opened the paper, looked in the sales section for employment, and found an ad for Salad Master Cooking. Doing those in-home demonstrations, selling the $4,000 cookware pots. Invite 10 of your friends over, and we'll give you a free gift, and then hopefully sell some cookware to everybody. And so I applied, and they pretty much hire anybody that walked in, and got it. And how we built clients is we literally took a bag of salad, went door to door at night to people's houses, knocking on the door, saying, would you like us to come in and make you a salad? And then you get this free salad maker gift, And some people say no, some people say yes, but I actually ended up doing very well. And we do trade shows and conventions and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And so did well. Actually made a couple of bucks in my pocket. And went back to the...
Well, hold on before you go back, right? Because I want to highlight something there, is that those companies like Salad Co. and Cutco, and even Vitamix has reps like that, and there's awesome sales training available. That's what I can say for them. They'll hire anybody because they're willing to train you if you're willing to show up and do the work. And the fact that you were willing to, he said, go get some experience, and you didn't walk away with your tail between your legs saying, oh, okay, well, I guess I can't do that. You went and got the experience. And so many people would just go, well, I guess it's not for me, because they don't want to do the work. And so, again, it's one of the things I admire about you is the willingness to do the work. So a year goes by, you've been selling salad and cookware.
Yeah, so you're selling the cookware. And just to go back, the good thing about doing those in-home parties is you have 10 people sitting in the living room, and these are all 10 different personalities. Right? So you have to be able to hold all of their attention. So, you could have, a homemaker, a CEO, a plumber, all walks of life, and you have to be able to interact with all of them. So it's great training. So I go back, and it just happened to be, it was almost a year to the day, and I just walked in, full of attitude, opened the door and said, I got my year's worth of experience. Do I start on Monday? And he looked at me and he was like, I had absolutely no idea that you would even come back. I thought I'd never see you again. I said, well, you told me what to do, so I did it. So now you have to hire me.
Yeah. One of my mentors says, success leaves clues, right? People actually tell us what to do to be successful. I mean, as a coach, I'm doing that all the time. I'm doing free trainings. I tell people what to do to be successful, and they're still going, well, what do? I don't know what to do. It's like, go do the thing that people are telling you to do. There is no great big secret that successful people are keeping from you. We're telling you. This show right now, having Dan on the show, is about us telling you what to do to be successful. And I get it why he didn't expect you to come back, because he's probably told hundreds of young men, go do this and come back.
Yeah, exactly. Right? And so went through the interview process with him, the regional managers and stuff, and they hired me and started off in the Port Coquitlam office, and quickly moved up the ranks to assistant manager, and as one of the top lenders in Western Canada, and ended up having the company car and great salary, pension, all of that, and it was very rewarding. And we also, not only did we have to do loans and mortgages, but we, as assistant managers, we had to do like the collections. So we'd have to go after people, garnish wages, court actions, all of that. So I would do all of that, and it was absolutely, by far, my uncle steered me in the right direction. The best training you could ever have working for, doing that. And so my next stage is, so they had offered me an office out in Chilliwack, and they were just opening a new branch out there. And number one, didn't want to move to Chilliwack. Nothing against Chilliwack, it's not my style. And just had bigger aspirations. And it just so happened that a lady I was dating at the time, her best friend's father was a senior agent with Clerica Life Insurance, which is now Sun Life. And he said, why don't you pop over and start selling life insurance? And, 100% commission, there's no salary, no company car, nothing. And I thought, I was almost 25 at the time. Thought, if you're going to do a commission gig, no wife, no kids, no mortgage, that's the best time to jump in. And, but also I have no natural market. We didn't grow up with money. None of my friends had money. So I'm going in absolutely cold with no referrals or anything like that.
So I want to ask you what you did to build your client base. But first, let's just comment on the fact that there's another example of somebody coming into your life saying, hey, why don't you do this? And when we're paying attention, that will happen. And
sure.
You knew you didn't want to go to Chilliwack. You knew that this wasn't right for you. And, and you're you like extreme sports and adrenaline stuff, and being an entrepreneur and commission-based sales is certainly going to give you that adrenaline. And I love the stories, because I've had that in my life as well, where people have come along and said, hey, what about this for you? I mean, I'm a coach today because other people said to me, you should think about being a coach. You'd be really good at it. I was a realtor because someone said that to me. I was a teacher because someone said that to me. So, people see our gifts in us. And when you're willing to pay attention to those little road signs the universe gives you, like, hey, come on over here. And I love that you did that. So tell us about that, because that's the main question, I think. New, but even experienced entrepreneurs, when the market gets a little bit tougher, like, where do I get my clients from? How do I build my client base? So how did you do that, coming from...
Exactly. I gave the company car the keys back, and said hasta la vista. And so I started studying in 1999. Then I got my license and started selling in early 2000. And so I found a niche that no other real insurance agent at the time was looking at. And then that corresponds into what I do today is mortgage insurance. So when a client goes to the bank and stuff to get their mortgage, the bank always offers their mortgage creditor insurance. And that's the absolute, it's the worst coverage out there. And people don't realize how crazy expensive it is. And it's absolutely not in the client's best interest. And so, I was, teaching clients, that had mortgages or about to get mortgages, what the better option was getting your own personal life insurance plan that benefits, them and their families and not the bank. And so I started working with mortgage brokers and helping them with their clients, and they would send their clients to me because they knew it was a much better option for it. And so yes, we started working that. And again,
and to be clear, that's not a niche that even now a lot of people are in, right?
Yeah, so even now, everybody always talks about mortgage rates, but nobody talks about mortgage insurance, which, I can get into a little bit later on, which is, I've saved clients literally $300 to $400 a month just by moving their insurance from the bank to doing it with a private insurance company. And it depends on their age and stuff, but I can get into that.
So realtors who are listening might want to talk to you about this because they can actually be rock stars and help their clients save some money. Right now, when interest rates are high at the time we're recording this, and people are kind of nervous about making decisions and they're watching their spending, so it'd be a great conversation to have. Exactly.
And, being a mortgage broker and insurance broker, working with the realtors, we can, truly put a package together that's in the client's best interest. And then, the clients, will realize that, we're looking out not only just for their mortgage and they're buying a home, but also for the whole financial.
Well, here's what's key too, is that I want you to make sure everyone listening, you pick up on that what Dan just said about doing what's in the client's best interest.
Yeah.
This is what sales is about, right? I define sales not as convincing or manipulating, but as in helping people make decisions in their best interest by giving them the information they need and guiding them to those decisions. So
exactly. I always say I'm not, I don't sell anything. I educate.
Yeah.
That, I always give my professional opinion, but at the end of the day, I let the clients make their decision. And one thing that I started doing when I started the insurance is, I never wanted to be that, stuffy old 3-piece suit kind of guy that punches into my computer that, okay, this is how much insurance you have to have. I approached it from, I guess, a holistic point of view because every client has different values. What's right for them might not be right for the neighbor. Some clients want to leave a legacy. Some clients just want to cover the mortgage. So I approach it from more of an emotional standpoint, and it's very simple process.
Well, it goes back to what you said before, that's our role as sales professionals, is to be tuning in to the needs of the clients. When you have 10 people in a room and you're doing your salad demonstrations and you have a plumber, a homemaker, a CEO, you need to be able to adjust to speak to your audience. So, and you're talking about the same thing here. It's like, what does your audience need? And really showing up and being of service to them. And you can only be of service to your clients or potential clients when you take the time to pay attention to what their needs are. And would you agree, Dan, that sometimes they don't even know what their needs are? So that's where the education piece comes in, is informing them.
Yeah, I mean, it's, the old adage, you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
So for instance, even now when I'm doing mortgages, a client might have, an investment property with a mortgage. And the first thing I ask is, how much is your insurance for that mortgage? 99%, no idea. It's just rolled into our payment.
Yeah.
Right. So then I look at it and say, you're paying, $150 a month for your insurance. We don't even have to, redo that mortgage. We can just cancel the insurance, and I can do that insurance and get you a better product for $45 a month. And so like I said, nobody's talking about it. So that's how I started my insurance and building up my clientele. So
can you make that real for us? Like, what did you actually do? You chose this niche where you're doing mortgage insurance. Great, you've chosen the niche. And lots of people go, yeah, I chose my niche. Great, but now what do I do? Yeah. So can you actually make it real? What did you actually do to connect with people?
Yeah, so I thought, a lot of agents or, whether it's insurance, mortgage, or real estate, they'll go after the clients searching for one by one. But I built my business that's the hard way. So I wanted to find a good referral source that would keep the pipeline going. So I partnered up with some great mortgage brokers who would consistently send me clients, and then it just exploded from there. Within the first couple of years, I was qualified top 2% in the world for sales. And when I left Clarica to move over to Manulife, I was number 7 in the country for sales. And it's just I find.
So let's just stop for a second on that. Top 2% in the world.
Yeah.
Right? And I know that Dan shares that with great humility, and yet this is why I wanted you to be on the show, because you're someone who's walked the talk. You're taking the action, you're doing what needs to be done. And it's, again, what I call the elite learner in business. You don't just become that by trying to get business. By trying to get your next client. You become that by mastering your craft and really showing up and being of service.
Yeah, and so the sales just started to come. And again, from the very beginning, I've always been, I always tell everybody, be authentic, be yourself. I've never tried to, what I call skate anybody. If I don't know something, like I think you said it on one of your other podcasts I was listening to, you want to be an expert in your field, but you also want to be an expert of where to find the answers that you don't know.
Yeah.
Right? So if a client asks me a question, or a realtor calls me up for a question and I don't know, I just say, I have absolutely no idea, but give me 2 days and I'll find out.
Yeah.
Right? Because and it's everything's changing so fast, you can't keep up.
Mm-hmm. And that's the important thing. Let's emphasize that, the willingness to be a learner, right? An elite learner is always learning. How long have you been in business, Dan?
Well, since 2000 is when I.
Okay, so 23 years you've been running your own business, and you're still. And this again, why I wanted you on the show, because you're such a great example of someone who's willing to constantly be learning.
Yeah. Well, when I first started in insurance, that friend's father that was a senior agent, he's kind of a mentor, I guess you could say, and he'd been in insurance since the mid 70s. Mm-hmm. And he always said that no matter how long you're in business, every day you wake up, you're unemployed.
Yeah.
Right? Every day you have to hustle. There's no guarantees.
Yeah.
Right? For it. So started building that up, and then I really missed doing the mortgage and lending aspect, and I thought, what a great opportunity that if I can be dual licensed and do the mortgages and the insurance all in one sitting with the clients, because nobody was doing it at that time. And even today, I know there's a few dual licensed agents out there, but I've never run into one as of yet. So I asked Clarica, do you mind if I get my mortgage broker's license? And they said, absolutely no way. You just sell insurance and that's it. So then about 18 years ago, I moved over to Manulife and started doing the insurance with them. So I asked them if they don't mind, and they said, well, nobody in Vancouver has asked us that before, so phone the insurance council. If they don't care, we don't care.
Okay, so I forgot about this part of the story, and what I love about this story is it illustrates the benefits of being open-minded. Right? Somebody just said, no way, we don't do that because we don't do that. And Manulife was like, yeah, let's do that. Sure, if it's okay with the regulating body, then go ahead. And let's just think about it. Like, have you ever done the math? But I'm thinking it's probably in the millions of dollars. There's a large sum of money involved here that Manulife has because you went over and worked with them and they said yes, where VERICO said no. So just an example, when we say no.
Clarica said no.
Clarica, okay, sorry. Clarica said no. So there's a company who says no to doing something in a new way. We see this all the time, right? Companies that thrive are the ones who are willing to say, sure, let's try that new thing. If it doesn't, completely go against our mandate and our vision for the company. But I just love that story about someone being willing to do something new. And the costs of saying, no, we just don't do that because we don't do that. Yeah.
Exactly.
So you moved over, Manulife, you're doing both of those things.
Yeah, so I asked Manulife if they don't mind if I get my mortgage broker's license, and they said, well, phone the insurance council. If they don't care, we don't care. So phone the local insurance council here in Vancouver. And they said, nobody's ever phoned us and asked us that before, but you're truly doing what's in the client's best interest, so have at her. So in 2007, I got my mortgage broker's license and have been doing both ever since.
Yeah, and it brings us back to that, right? What is in the best interest of the clients? And whenever we are in service to the client's best interest, that's when we're truly being sales professionals. When we're convincing and sliming people and trying to manipulate them, that's not what sales is about. And I don't know, I'd like you to speak on this, because I find that so many people don't want to be salesy, so they don't bother learning what I call the language of sales leadership and sales skills. So they end up being salesy.
Exactly.
Thoughts on that?
I find, in all industries, a lot of people are very transaction oriented, right? So, whereas, I've talked to clients, no pressure, give them some information and, let it go. And then 4 years later, they call me back and say, hey, remember us? We met at, Joe Forte's or wherever, and you were talking to me and you didn't pressure, you didn't do anything like that. And, 4 years, 5 years later, they come back and, do a mortgage or get an insurance policy. So, if you're in this business long enough, I'm still going to be here for a lot longer. So 10 years from now, I still need a deal.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah. And when you come from that perspective, that the actions you take every day, and I did a training earlier this week on daily non-negotiables, and I think it's actually going up as a podcast as well. So it'll be, if you're listening to this podcast, there's probably another one already posted about daily non-negotiables. And the daily non-negotiables: grow your audience, nurture your audience, and make offers. And sometimes you make an offer and they don't come back for 5 years, but you've made the offer. And if you're doing those things every day, I would agree with your mentor who said you're unemployed every day.
True.
To a point, but I would disagree, because you actually are employed and your job is to grow your audience, nurture your audience, and make offers, right?
For sure.
Share what you do and make offers. That's your job. Yeah. So, okay, awesome.
And, and one thing I learned from the beginning is, especially in, insurance, mortgages, and even real estate, a lot of people segment clients, bronze, silver, gold, platinum. The platinum guys get the best service, and it trickles down from there. Where I adopted right from the beginning that whether it's $100,000 mortgage or a $2 million mortgage or a small insurance policy or a big insurance policy, everybody gets rock star treatment.
Yeah.
Because some of my biggest clients have come from my smallest clients.
Yeah.
Right? So
Great distinction.
You never know who somebody knows, right? And also those small clients, as they grow and, through life, they get, bigger incomes, grow in themselves. So it might be a small policy or a small mortgage today, or a small condo or small, but 10 years from now, 20 years from now, and, they're making, triple the money, right? Yeah.
So when you're thinking transactional, then you're looking at the number attached to the person, and then you may let them go. And I actually came across recently a husband and wife business team in real estate who've been doing business for 30 years and never doing repeat business. Like, oh my gosh, what a grind they must have had. So rather than keeping those relationships solid with the clients they have worked with. So I'm a fan of building a repeat and referral business. If you're in service-based sales, you just never know when somebody needs you again. I just had a client re-enroll this week who I worked with a couple of years ago, and she's like, I want to come back and have a tune-up, right? So even in my practice, that happens. And so by keeping in touch with the people and and having that attitude, and I really love what you said about treating them all the same.
Yeah.
Because you said they're going to grow in their lives and what they can do with you. And then that ties into, we weren't planning to talk about this, but I'm going to ask you a question about your systems, because I love systems, and I think that we should treat everybody the same way. So when we have systems in place, it's actually easier to do that. So tell me about your systems that you have for clients, and just give us some insight about your thoughts on systems.
Systems in what regard?
Just client intake, like client process, like your client process journey.
Yeah, so yeah, when a client's referred to me, everybody's called immediately, or that day or the next day. Nothing ever sits on my desk. And then once I talk to the client, we do our fact find application process, and if they're ready to proceed at that time, we proceed. If not, then I put them into my database, my calendar, and stay in touch with them. Whether it be 3 months, 6 months, every year, just to phone them and say, hey, just letting you know I'm still out here. Do you have any questions? Or sometimes I just phone them just to say happy birthday, with no other intent. And like I say, nothing. It's not crazy or fancy. It's just, for me, it's just having fun and working with the clients. And there's nothing that's really cookie cutter about it.
Exactly. And that's what I want people to take away, is that it doesn't have to be fancy, doesn't have to be exactly the way Dan does it or exactly the way I do it. The important thing is you have a system, because it's going to make your life a lot easier if you don't have to think about, what do I do with this person every time? So as sales professionals, we want to minimize the fatigue of decision making. And by simplifying the decision-making process for our clients, we also want to do the same for ourselves in our businesses, right? So if you're every time going, oh, I have a lead, I'm going to put them in the database today, and then I'll call them later, and I'll do this, and I'll do this form now, and I'll do this one, and then another day you do it a different order. And when you do it the same order all the time, it's mastery of your processes and your craft. And it's so much easier to focus on the client or the potential client, your energies and attention, if your systems are running kind of automatically in the background. And when you have that attitude of everybody gets treated the same way, whether it's a $500,000 condo, or sorry, let's say $100,000. There's no $100,000 condos. We live in BC. So a $500,000 condo that your cousin is buying with you, or it's a client who's buying a multi-million-dollar property that you've just met, and they're somebody really important from a big corporation. You treat them the same way, because it's going to make your life easier. It's going to make you a better professional for doing so.
Exactly. Yeah. And find out let's talk about being authentic. Don't try to be somebody you're not. Right? And have fun along the way. That's a lot of people forget to have fun.
Yes. Right.
I like the people I work with, the realtors I work with, everybody else. We all have fun. You go out for it's not just a working relationship. They're my friends. We go out for drinks. Might take them snowmobiling or do something. But and the clients that I have, when I do a client meeting, I might be talking to them for half an hour. Maybe 10 minutes is actually work related. The rest is talking about their family and their kids, and and being generally interested in them.
Yes, genuinely connecting.
Exactly.
And one of the things that came to mind as you were saying that about really connecting with people and having fun is that I believe, this is my theory and it's my experience too, the more you master the art and science of sales as a service-based sales professional, the more you can show up in service, because you're not actually worrying about, what do I say next? What do I do next?
Exactly.
And the more fun you're going to have, because you're not scrambling all the time to figure out what's next.
And you want it to be second nature, where you don't have to use a script or anything. I've never used a script in my whole career. When I first started out and I was having great success, people would come in and say, okay, what's the script you use? What do you how do you do it? And I say, I don't have any script. I just go, right? And I just talk to the clients, and there's no pre-formulated plan.
Yeah, and I would argue that if I followed you around for a couple of days, I could find your scripts, because you've come up with them, right? And that's what I do with my clients inside the Aligned and Prosperous Leadership Program, is help them create their own scripts. Because we've all seen, well, not all of us, you and I have seen them, the scripts that those companies give you, and you're like, oh my gosh, I would never say that in a million years. And I have scripts. I have questions that I ask every single time. things that I will say, way that I will phrase something. And I teach my clients how to say things in a way that's going to elicit a response, right? Even if it's a no, we're still going to try to get some kind of response and not just have people ghost us, right? Like, so one of the things I would say is never email or call somebody saying, I'm just following up.
Yeah, never use that word just.
Yeah. Okay. I talk about this all the time. I want to know your opinion on why we don't use the word just.
The reason we don't use just is because I think it portrays that what you're saying, might not be important.
Yeah, might not be important. I also think there's a bit of an apology there, like, just is kind of like, sorry to bother you, and it has that tone to it, like it's not important, and I'm sorry to bother you.
It's not a confident statement.
Exactly.
And I think, one other thing is looking at, obviously you need to know your products and stuff like that. But when you're talking with the clients, you have to have that confidence as soon as you pick up the phone or as soon as you walk in the door.
Yeah.
When I first started in sales, this is back when everything was paper-based. There's no electronic applications, and you'd have to see clients face to face. And I would fill out all the paperwork, put their name on the file, before I'd go to the appointment. And agents would come into my office and say, why are you doing all this? It's taking you 15, 20 minutes to do the paperwork when you don't even know if they're going to buy. Mm-hmm. And I'd look at them and I'd say, what do you mean they might not buy? Of course they're buying.
Yeah.
Right? So you leave that office with the confidence, knowing they're going to buy. Right?
And the intention. Right? So that's what I call intention setting. I'm setting the intention that I'm showing up for them as though they're going to buy. Because if we decide ahead of time they might not buy, it impacts the way we show up.
Exactly. The way you hold yourself, the way you walk in, and I'd have agents that would come in and, we'd be chit-chatting and they'd say, I was with the client for 4 hours then, they never even bought. He said, because you were there for 4 hours.
Well, and also, did you ask for the sale? Right? Because you were probably dancing around it and tiptoeing and never really directly asking for it. And that's another thing I would say is like, are you ready to do this? At some point, you just have to turn the conversation and say, so, are you ready to do this? Yeah. And if they say no, then you take it from there and go, well, what do you need to know in order to be ready? Yeah. Or is this not a priority for you? There's lots of things that you can ask. So when I said I think I could find your scripts, because I know you have them, the thing is that you have a natural gift and intuition for language and how it works. And so you've picked it up and done it naturally. It's not the same for everybody. And me too, like I did it naturally. I got into real estate and I was like, I am in a foreign country and I don't speak the language. And I set about learning the language of sales leadership. And I think a lot of people don't realize that that's what you have to do. Yeah. So, you don't expect to move to Spain and be successful living in Spain and not learn Spanish. It's the same in sales. You have to learn the language of sales leadership. Some of us, like Dan and I, we pick up languages really quickly, so we make it seem easy. And it's also not that hard. You got a tip today. Don't say just. Ask for the sale.
And don't be scared to ask for it and just go for it. Like how do we meet? I put you as a friend on Facebook. Yeah. We matched, and did I waste time by saying, hey, let's go for happy hour and see if there's an opportunity for us to work together? Yeah. But you have to just seize that moment and those opportunities. And sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah, exactly. And notice what I did. So we're master sales professionals, the two of us. He reaches out and goes, hey, and actually, you connected with me. I said yes. And I always ask people when they connect with me, hey, thanks for connecting. I'm curious, what caused you to want to connect with me? So I opened the conversation for him. And then he said, because we have a lot of similar contacts in the real estate profession. We got to talking. He told me a little bit about his story. He's like, how long have you been in coaching? And I told him, he goes, how long have you been in real estate? Mortgages. And he told me his story about the firefighter, and he wanted to be a firefighter. It didn't work. I was like, this is an interesting person. I want to know more about what he's doing in his business, just because of the way he showed up in my DMs. And I told him, I rarely go for coffee or happy hour with anybody who reaches out. Even people I know, I don't have a lot of time for that, right? But because I don't. In business, you get to a certain point in your business where you shouldn't be having coffee with people in the middle of the day. right? There comes a point where you've got to be more efficient with who you're meeting with and really selective about who you meet with. So I'm not saying don't do it, but take the time to screen. Like Dan and I screened each other with a pretty lengthy conversation before we decided to meet in person. Right? And I think that's the key. So you're not wasting time with everybody who says, let's go for coffee. Correct. Right? Like I knew that I was meeting somebody who was interesting to me. And before I decided to meet with him. And you did the same, right? You weren't going to just ask to meet with somebody who wasn't potentially interesting and a potential good connection. You never knew I was going to invite you to be on the podcast. Okay. So I will always remember that moment of horror on your face when I invited you. You're like, what? And then you're like, just let me listen to your podcast first. So I just want to just acknowledge you and thank you for taking the time to be here. And you have now done your first podcast. Well done.
It was easy peasy.
Yeah. So I have a couple of final questions for you as we wrap up. One of them is, you made a comment earlier about mentors. And, you had some mentors who's kind of found you. But what would you say to somebody just getting started in the business, in mortgage or insurance or any service-based sales for that matter, who is looking for a mentor? What would you recommend they look for?
Yeah, I would say find somebody, in your office or, in a group of offices, somebody that, you might look up to, and somebody that's, just crushing it out there. And don't be afraid to say, hey, do you mind if, we go out for a lunch and pick your brain and go from there, and just ask. And they might say, no, I don't have the time or anything like that. But there's always people out there. Yeah. When I first started in the industry, there was a financial planner agent within Clerica who was huge. And he was in Kelowna. And so my branch manager said, there's this guy out in Kelowna. He's great, And so the first thing I did is I phoned him in the morning and said, hey, can I do that 4-hour drive? And I'll take you out for lunch and then I'll drive back. And so I drove to Kelowna for 4 hours, had lunch with him, and picked his brain, then drove back. And so you have to put that effort in to find them. And the mentors who are doing well, right, will see that in you, that you're getting out of your comfort zone, and you're actually putting that effort in to be successful.
Yeah. Okay, and I really appreciate that story because people often say, well, I want to pick a mentor. I was like, and they'll go, hey, will you be my mentor? It's kind of like saying to somebody you just met, will you be my girlfriend, right? Or my boyfriend.
I've tried that, it doesn't work.
Yeah, it doesn't work, right? And so you want to just slow that down and think of finding a mentor kind of like dating, right? Yeah. You got to just, hey, I'd love to have a chat with you. Are you open to sitting down with me? And by the way, if you're invited to lunch, you pay. You pay. It's an investment in your future, so you pay. Yeah. But I did the same thing. It's like I looked around, I was like, who's doing something that I want to do? And my mentor, Keith Roy, the first day I met him in the office, he said he had 3 listings on the board, stood up and added 3 more. I'm like, I want to know who he is, how he did that, because I'm going to be just like him. And then I followed him, and he was doing some trainings, and I went to all of them, and I asked him for lunch. And I asked him questions, and he watched me. And over time, I ended up being on his team eventually, cool. Because he was watching. And I learned so much from him, and how to be a solo agent, but then also how to run a team. And so, and that was from looking around, going, who do I want to be my mentor? And some people just don't have the capacity. They're going to go, yeah, we're not a fit. They don't feel the desire, right?
It might not be their personality. And again, they'll just say, yeah, I'm not the right fit, and then just move on to the next one.
And there's some brokerages out there, I'm not going to name names, who offer mentorship programs, and they actually pay some senior agents to be mentors. I'm sorry, that doesn't work. I hear from people like, oh, that person's supposed to be my mentor and it doesn't work. I'm like, yeah, because that's not how mentorship works. Yeah. Like paid mentorship, you might as well hire yourself a coach that really fits with you. Because a paid mentorship it's kind of like an arranged marriage, right? It might work, but it might not. True. So let's make sure that you're looking around and choosing somebody, and let them choose you back. And that's how to get the right person. Exactly. Okay, so a couple more questions for you. I got some rapid fire questions for you, and then we will sign off. Hang on, I gotta find where my rapid fire questions went. Here we go. Okay. Star Trek or Star Wars?
Star Wars.
All right.
Actually, neither really. I'm not a big sci-fi guy.
Okay.
I'll Star
But if
Wars.
you had to pick, I just think I have this belief that people fit into two categories, Star Trek or Star Wars. And then some people say, yeah, or neither really. But if you had to pick one, right? Star Wars.
Star Wars. Sure.
Yeah. Because you were a child in the 80s. Right? So, favorite place to visit?
Oh, I love going to San Diego.
Nice.
Mission Beach in San Diego. The beaches, the waves, the people there, and I've been down there three summers, and love it. I would love to maybe even partially retire there one day.
Cool. What's your zodiac sign?
Libra.
Cool. And this is a big question for somebody who's such a risk taker as you. What's the scariest thing you ever did?
The scariest thing I ever did. Probably, well, when we had our racing bikes, this is back in the day, 16 years old, 17 years old. Well, I would have been 16. And, racing down the highway, no gear, just sandals, shorts, t-shirt, and, hitting about 290 kilometers an hour. And just knowing that if anything happens, you're going to be annihilated. And all I can do is just give it more throttle and go faster.
And something did happen for you. So, wow. Okay. What's your non-negotiable self-care ritual?
My non-negotiable self-care, well, I hit the gym at least 6 days a week and eat very healthy. And is red wine self-care?
Depends on the study you're looking at, right? For some people, yeah, they say it's great. And I asked that question because it's so key to remember when you're an entrepreneur or in service-based sales that you are your most valuable asset and you have to take care of yourself.
Yeah. When I have to, take care of myself physically, mentally. But if you're not taking care of yourself physically, then you're feeling drained all day.
Yeah.
And when I go to the gym, I don't bring my phone to the gym. I don't have anything. It's just hitting the weights, and it's a social aspect as well. Like you have your gym buddies and stuff. And but yeah, you got to take care of yourself physically for sure.
Yeah, so vital. And so many people, that's the first thing that goes is they're not eating well, they're not sleeping well, they're not exercising because I gotta work.
Yeah.
But you've got to do that first. Great. Is there a book that you would say, if I love this question, is like, if we were all going to go to Mars, because we're going to move to Mars, and you were tasked with putting one book in the library that was going to go on Mars, what's the book you would choose?
One book in the library. That's a tough one. I'll have to get back to you on that one.
Okay. So, or is there a teacher or someone that's like, this is an important person that's really inspired you? Whether it's a coach, a motivational speaker, anything like that?
Yeah, I listen to a lot of, I find I do a lot of meditation every day. And so, I'm always on Audible looking for, guided meditation and stuff like that. There's not one that stands out in my mind right now, but I'm sure if I dug into my library, there's a lot.
Well, and that's great. A great plug too for the meditation. Take care of your body and your mind, right?
Exactly.
So, because I do meditation and movement every single day, and it makes a big difference. Okay. If you were, this is one of my favorite questions. It might be kind of weird, but I like it. If you were a city, who would you be?
If I was a city, who would I be? Maybe New York City.
I could see that.
Yeah, I like the fast pace of it, but I also like it's this cultural melting pot. So I like to surround myself with people who are have different views and different experiences. I like it's good to have like-minded people around you, but you also have people who have different opinions and views because that's how you learn. And I think New York City would be a good example of that, where you have everybody from all over the world, every walk of life.
Yeah, cool. I love that answer. That was probably their best answer yet. Something you haven't done yet that's on your dream list.
Something that I haven't done yet that is on my dream list. I'm trying to think. I'm drawing a blank here.
No problem.
But one of the things, for sure, in high school, we never got to do it because of my motorbike accident, but a buddy of mine, we wanted to take our motorbikes and go, down the west coast of the States, then across, then back up the east coast, and then across Canada to come back home. So do a big loop. And, that's definitely something that, I'll do one day.
Awesome. And final question. Success leaves clues. What's one clue or tip that you'd like to leave for others who are going to be listening to this podcast?
Yeah. Just go out and do it. That's, I'm not, I don't have any master's degree or anything like that, but, I'm not scared to pick up the phone or talk to somebody and say hello. And, just sitting at home or in your office, talking to other people in the office is not going to get it done. So just pick up that phone and put yourself out there. And just like I'm doing today, do something that's out of your comfort zone, because you'll never know what's going to come of it.
Yeah. Awesome. Great advice. So, Dan, thank you so much for taking the time to be with me and my audience today. I appreciate it. So much wisdom and insight and experience. And you're just such a great example of what life can be like when you are an elite learner, what your business can be like, the experience of it. It should be fun. It should be profitable. It should be all those great things when you take the time to really master your craft. So thank you again for being here. How do people get in touch with you if they'd like to have a further conversation with you?
All my contact information, I'm old school, but I finally started an Instagram account 2 days ago for it. So, you can reach me out on Instagram at Mortgage Vancouver. And all my contact information, phone number, email, websites is all there. So again, it's at Mortgage Vancouver.
At Mortgage Vancouver. And we'll also have your email address and stuff in the show notes as well. So Perfect. Again, thank you so much for being with me today.
Awesome. You made it easy.